Hi, this is Amy Hauser, and I am with my sweet friend Patricia Spigner. And we're back on here again, doing some recordings for the Mere Word Bible study, but they are posted on YouTube under a playlist for Mere Word chats. But I love having the opportunity to just get on here and have conversations because one of my favorite things is just to talk to people, to get to know people, to know a little bit about their story. And, like lives come from all over across the globe, and then they intersect at different times and seasons in life. And nothing like getting on a chat, recording that, grabbing a cup of tea on this Arctic blast time that we're having, at least globally, it looks like, or nationally, shall I say, and having a conversation about the mere word, about life, about our journey, how we got here, and those kind of things. So I have invited Patricia to hop on here with me. We had the opportunity of first connecting, I'm going to say, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, just, when you kind of start to um, maybe you're drawn into something someone shares on the Wednesday night Mere Word Bible study that is open to all people to join at any time, no pressure, but it's an open group. You reach out to Pamela or Patrick to join up, and we get to go over a chapter. We're going over First Corinthians right now, and then you get into breakout groups where there's anywhere from, say, 4 to 6 people in a breakout group, and we're really whatever the Spirit kind of nudges you on, we get to chat about and share and just connect and get to know one another. And so I would say a year ago was the first time that you were kind of on my, like a highlight, something about some of the things that you were saying and the wisdom that was pouring forth from you. And it really struck into something that maybe I needed to hear that day, or that the Spirit wanted to speak into my heart through a person. And I don't even think we were in a breakout group. It might have just been in the after conversation. But since then, we kind of, I would get in groups with you periodically, and I just have always felt like, man, a lot of wisdom, experience, and love flowing through you. So it's so fun to have you on here, and we'll just continue that conversation on how we've gotten to know each other. But say hey on here.
Well, hey, hello, Facebook world. Hello, Mirror Bible Study world. And, thank you, Amy, for having me on your broadcast. And, I don't remember the exact time that we met, but um, I do remember, seeing you face to face and, just having some good times talking with you, listening to you, and overhearing conversations that you had with other people. And I remember this one particular conversation. I don't remember the details of it, but you were just so calm. And there was just such a calmness and a sweetness about you. And I thought, okay, she's worth knowing.
Oh man, so you were eavesdropping, huh, girl?
Yes, I was. Those
Was
good conversations. You just like to listen sometimes.
Yeah. So was this in Destin or something
In
else?
Destin. In Destin.
Well, here's the fun thing, you guys, because this is part of why I love to do this and hop on and just started doing this. I don't know anything about doing broadcasts, but I do know about loving people and connecting with people. And um, we were both actually on the what they called the religious detox cruise back in,
Hmm.
was that 2022 or 21?
Yeah, that was 22.
22.
22. Right, right,
April
right.
of 22, I think, or something, March, April of
Hmm.
22. And you were on there and I was on there, and we didn't know each other.
Right, right.
It just wasn't the time, right? Like we can go along with somebody, and then, there will, oh, do you see those balloons?
I do.
I have, I didn't do that.
Either
It's
did I.
watch this. I got to just show you this. You guys, when you update your version on Zoom, this will do it in a second. It might not do it. It literally raises your hand for you now.
Oh,
That was happening yesterday when I was on a call with a client. I was like, well, that's weird.
I like the
Anyway,
balloons though.
yeah, that was fun. And so, but just at the right time when the Spirit intersects, and there's a time and a need, there can be what reason, season, lifetime that we connect with
Hmm.
people. it's just really fun. But all that to be said, then yeah, in Destin, we connected a lot more, had some great conversations, got to sit across
Mhm.
from each other at a meal and or next to each other actually.
Mhm.
And my gosh, did we have a connection on that last. Of course, my cat is playing with.
Yes, I
Can
see him.
you hear it?
I can see him.
I'm glad you can't hear it because he's playing with the little wooden thing hanging from the blind shade, and
Okay,
it's
okay.
making a lot of noise against the glass. But where we had that, the wine and the bread communion time.
That was great.
That was I literally almost couldn't move in terms of the Spirit's just heaviness in a heart, just absorbed in the communion and the sharing of friendship,
Mhm.
the sharing
Mhm.
of life, and the breathing life into one another. So thank you for that incredible time together. That was
Well,
really.
thank you. I remember, I think it was the night before we were leaving, and we had gathered in groups in the, like, it's like a lobby area, and then outside of the hotel. And, we were all sitting outside. It was dark out. We were in a circle of about maybe 15 people. And it's a thing that Pat and Pam Emery, I can say their names,
Yes.
they always encourage us to do, to just have a word for somebody and just to sit and just whatever is on your heart, whatever the Lord is speaking to you. And I noticed in an environment like that, you may feel uncomfortable about speaking, but you just begin to speak, and then the Holy Spirit really does take over. And it just goes from person to person, and each one just sharing what the Lord is just showing them about you. It might just be a couple of words, it could be a prayer, a song, it could be something long, it could be something short, but it's all very meaningful and it's all very encouraging. And I think that was the favorite. And after I got home, I've been home maybe 3 weeks, and then I transcribed everything because I had recorded it. And I had yours transcribed too. So, I look at them every now and then and think, yeah, this is really good stuff. Really good stuff.
Awesome. You had my words transcribed that were given,
No,
or
that
the
you
ones I
spoke to
said?
me.
Okay.
Yes, the ones that you spoke to me. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. So,
Hmm.
special. Yes, that was incredible. And as we journey kind of individually through most, not, I shouldn't say most people, many people have kind of left traditional church experience that are part of the mirror word, or are at least kind of in that place of uncertainty. And we've had the opportunity through the mirror to be open to an online community. And there are certain areas where, or I don't know, elements of church that we maybe have become accustomed to as a culture that are not, that we miss. We miss some of that, but yet we are satisfied in certain areas as well. And where Pamela and Patrick have opened up to things like the cruise, to Destin, Rachel and Michelle are planning a women's retreat, some different things to connect in community. We get to kind of get that filled back up, right? And when Pamela and Patrick opened up to calling it prophetic words of encouragement, practicing these things that maybe some people have done in church, or maybe it's not part of what they've had at all, but learning and growing and speaking and edifying over other people is such a freeing opportunity and so full of love. When we're in this word and we're engulfed in love, mirroring Christ, seeing our reflection in him, and then allowing that to kind of overflow as it grows to other people.
Hmm.
The environment was so safe to
Hmm.
not feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to give a word. For some people, that's really uncomfortable. But yet, as everyone just played with it and let the spirit just move, I think it was so like, like an empowering thing Tell me a little bit about your experience with it when you were receiving the words, and if that was something familiar for you or new or what?
Well, receiving prophetic words hasn't been new for me. I've, been on this journey for over 40 years. But it wasn't until maybe the last 20 years when I started receiving prophetic words, and then maybe the last 10 years where I stopped listening to a lot of the prophetic words because, I just felt like, well, this really isn't from God. There's a lot of entertainment going on. But in that sort of environment, you just feel free and you feel safe,
Mm.
to just speak. And if something you may happen to say is not, really on track with what God is doing or speaking, no one is going to condemn you or judge you. You'll be encouraged to do it again.
Yeah.
Just keep going, just keep going. And I remember the first time it was when we were on the cruise, and I had never just sat in a group like that and told, well, let's give a word for somebody. Just it was so spontaneous. And so I was sitting there, and it was Pat and Pam and, a few of us sitting having meals, which we would often do, just sit and have a meal and then just, start talking. And uh, it was like, okay, give a word to Pat. Everybody give a word to Pat. And so I looked at Pat, and he had on this shirt, and there was a word on the shirt, but the word I saw was not the word that was on the shirt. And the word I saw was tsunami. And it was almost like the letters were moving around on the shirt so that they
Wow.
formed something else. And I looked at him and I said, I see tsunami. Does that mean anything to you? And he didn't get it right away, but within seconds, Pam was like, yeah, that's the same word that Francois had spoken to you, tsunami. And when they started talking about it and confirming that that's what they'd heard before, now whenever I see him, if he has on that shirt, the letters begin to do the same thing. It's like they're moving around. I can't tell you what the name is on the shirt, but I remember the shirt. And as soon as I see it, it's like the letters start mixing around, and all of a sudden it's tsunami. So just doing that and getting a confirmation immediately that that word has some significance, not only does it bless the person you're giving it to, but it blesses you and it just
Right.
encourages you to keep it up. So after that had happened, I would just see people and just start telling them what I'm hearing. And maybe it made sense to them, maybe it didn't, but I just did it anyway. And I had an experience where I was on the beach here in Florida and just walking along the beach, and it was a setup. God just set it up so beautifully because the day was warm and beautiful. It was a weekday in the morning, not too many people on the beach, but I was able to just start talking to people. It wasn't just walking up to them and just start talking. It would be like I saw a couple, and it was obvious that they were vacationing and they were trying to do selfies. So as I was walking by, I was like, oh, do you want me to do that for you? I can take your picture. And then we just started a conversation and wound up praying for them and blessing them. And that happened all over the beach. And then on my way back, I met a young lady, and I'd seen her when I'd gotten out of my car, and I noticed her. And then when I got back to my car, she was still in her car. And I thought, it's mighty hot to be sitting in your car all day. And I was backing out of my space. And I just felt this nudging of Holy Spirit to just go back into your parking space. And as I did, I tapped on her window and I said, is everything okay? And she said, yes, everything's okay. I said, do you need anything? And she said, you can pray for me.
Mm.
How often does someone just say that? And so I developed a relationship with her, and, we went out to eat, and she told me her story. And, so, and
Wow.
I think a lot of it has sparked from being a part of the Mirror Bible study. I really do.
Yeah. So Patricia, did those situations, those two occasions you just mentioned happen since Destin or
They were since the first Destin.
since the first one? Okay.
Right.
And then the tsunami about Patrick's shirt. was
That
on the
was on the cruise. Mhm.
so since 2022, April of 2022, you've had those, and I'm sure other
Yes.
experiences. And, I'm just thinking about that. Like, this is really not the direction. Like, I don't, like I say, I never have a real set direction, but all of a sudden I'm just kind of thinking about the tsunami because there are so many people, y'all, that have had incredible things happening in the last few years, whether they're just picking up the mirror, they're hopping on the Wednesday nights, or they're connecting in other ways, maybe through, just reading, watching replays, or reading it on their own, and but connecting somehow, right? There's this oneness, this union tapestry of the entire cosmos that we're all in, and there's like this, I don't know, I'm thinking vortex, but it's like that tsunami. What's going on underneath before that wave hits? There's this inter there's this force that's shifting before it's an outward impact.
Mhm.
And I mean, like, I have personally experienced so many things in the last year, but I will tell you that since I made the decision to go ahead and go to Destin, when I didn't feel like it was going to be a smart financial move. And I have had so many shifts in how since then, since October, of how I respond to Abba, the voice of Yeshua, when it comes to finances and living life and trusting. And it's blown my mind, the provision. It started, though, similar kinds of things, Patricia, when I went to the airport to go to Destin. I'm in the Houston airport, headed to Fort Walton, and I happened to have, like, I don't know, an extra 45 minutes at my gate, because I just got there early. I'm in the bathroom and end up with having an opportunity to, just where spirit just says, tune in to the lady, 2 sinks down from you in the restroom. Cause I noticed something was wrong. Um, but nobody else did. It's crowded in there, but nobody else was realizing that she was holding on to the sink and standing there a long time. And I, get an opportunity to go up to her and just say, "Hey, you okay?" Same kind of thing. You okay?" And she's like, "No, I'm not." I mean, she can't even really talk. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but I ended up with her in the bathroom for 30 minutes, had the time. Who has time at an airport to stand in the bathroom for 30 minutes? We both did. And she's having a panic attack because she's been diagnosed with cancer. She's like 40, has young kids, and just like in a horrible place. Well, I happen to be a stage 3 breast cancer survivor. I happen to know breath work. I just get to breathe with her. I don't have to do any holy, religious thing. I just breathing, calming. I knew spirits, like, she doesn't need 911. I knew it in the core of my being, but it leads to prayer. It leads to all the fear. It leads to the story, all kinds of blessing where we're connecting, since then as well. Later on, I run into her and she wants, gives me her business card, wants mine, blah, blah, blah. Well, beautiful. Go to Destin, incredible things, opportunities to speak into each other's lives. Just this continued. Like, to me, there was this spirit of life in those circles, like nothing else I've ever experienced. And I've experienced some prophetic and those kinds of things, but it's because we don't need the steps. We don't need to be told, "Oh, you don't prophesy bad. You don't tell these things." We didn't know, there's no instructions because we're doing it in love. Love's the
Right.
foundation of everybody that's present, and so the right things go forth.
Mhm.
Then I get back a week later, I'm in the grocery store, I'm here at HEB standing in front of the sweet potatoes, just getting my potatoes and other groceries. Notice a woman standing in front of there, standing a long time, not moving. And spirit's nudging me, like, notice her. And I'm like, "Ma'am, are you okay?" She's like, "No, I can't breathe." Same kinds of things, same heart conditions. She feels like there's an arrow coming through the back of her heart, neck, or back of her back, piercing through her heart, and she can't move. I knew I didn't need 911. Spirit made it very clear. We're there half an hour in front of the sweet potatoes at the grocery store, breathing, doing breath work, calming her. and then tells her story, and then all of these fears and all of these things, and, a panic attack. I
Mhm.
mean, I've had these different opportunities, I mean, countless, but those are the 2 biggies that just sandwiched Destin, and I
Mhm.
feel like there is this tsunami wave of love, and
Mm.
the people that are part of this, Patrick and Pamela being um, trailblazers for that, leading that, coming up under people. Just in love, not this is what you
Mhm.
have to do. It's just this is how you be you. How do you express your beautiful self like you do? You love the beach. You love animals. You love these things that, you know, nature and movement and fitness and all of these things. And it's like he's bringing our lights to shine in our own unique ways as we continue to grow and see ourselves. I just love this so much. Right.
That's good. That's really good. I'm really enjoying this journey. I used to just call it a journey, and now I call it a journey of discovery because not only am I discovering more about Abba, I'm discovering more about myself. And, in that, I look back on the years, and there were times when I looked back on the years and thought, well, I wasted time. But now I look back and I don't think any of the time was wasted. It got me to where I am today, and it's propelling me even further into where I really want to be. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm enjoying this. And I think when I first started with the Mirror Bible, I think I had actually just purchased maybe John. And, I thought, okay, let me just get John and see if I like this, see if this is something I want to do. And I was just blown away just by reading that. So I think that when I first started, that was all I had. And then within a week, I had the whole translation, as much as was translated at that time, whatever was published. And the first thing I really saw, and I'll never forget, was it was the seamless union that we have, not only with him, but with one another. And on the day that I mentioned that in our breakout, I talked about how my grandchildren had been here to visit. And when they left, I mean, there was food everywhere. And so I had to take all the cushions, all the covers off the cushions of the sofa, and I just put them in the washing machine, which I really should not have done, but I just had to. So when I got them out, all the seams were coming apart and they were fraying. And, so I was spending the day sewing and, putting everything back together. And when I read about that seamless union, I was walking by the sofa and I saw a little tear in a seam. And I thought, that's amazing. This can come apart, but we have this union with the Father where there are no seams. So nothing can ever come apart and nothing could ever separate us from Him. I've even seen clothes that don't have seams and they never come apart. And every time I walk by my sofa now, if I see a little something frayed, it reminds me of the seamless union that we have with the Father, and nothing, no one could ever separate us from Him. We are entwined with one another, eternally entwined. So, yeah, so
Yes.
I read that and I had shared it. And then they came back and said to me, well, Jesse was on the call, and Jesse, tell her what you do for a living. And he says he sews, he makes these covers and things for boats or ships or whatever. And it really meant a lot to him to compare that seamless union with fabric and sewing and putting things together. So I was like, wow, that is so
That's
good. It meant something to someone else besides me.
well, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
That, it makes me think of, when at at the crucifixion, and those the as the guards were divvying up his clothing, and there was the undergarment that was
Hmm.
one solid piece. It couldn't be split. It was seamless.
Hmm.
that one particular element of his garment, the one closest to him,
Mm,
that, shows the exquisiteness, the complexity of the creation of that garment. Um, but I love that it couldn't be split. They couldn't tear it.
hmm
I don't know. That's me
You
thinking.
know, and so much of what I'd heard in the traditional church was just the opposite of that. You know, you have to work on your behavior to stay in a right relationship with the Father when actually there's nothing you can do to destroy your relationship. You have a relationship with him, maybe you ignore it, you know, but he's always there, with open arms. Just, I'm right here. I'm right here, so I love it. Like I said, this is a journey of discovery, and I'm so, so thankful for the Mirror translation. And I told somebody recently that 10 years from now, I'm going to have like a whole bookcase full of mirror Bibles because every time there's an update, I want to get one.
Yeah. I want the hard version. That's what I've got my, whoops, there goes my bookmark flying across. Yeah, I've got
Okay.
a few different versions myself, but I've been
Mhm.
trying to use the app, but I'd like to be able to make,
Right.
no,
Yeah, I have it on my Kindle, but it's just not the same.
it's
It's
not.
not the same.
Yeah. So speaking of the mirror, I think it's a divine appointment, in my personal opinion, that everyone who comes across this word is, uh, if you want to call it, like, because enjoy, energetic frequency, learning and quantum physics and that kind of thing, but that we put a desire out. But it's really, I mean, it's just really an understanding what's going on in the spirit. We put a desire out, whether it's getting to a place and it's sitting in a pew where you're just no longer, it's like, there are things I know beyond what I'm hearing, and I need you to show me how to continue to grow in this. Um, and so that's how I feel like I put that out there and I pulled the mirror back. It came
Mm.
into my heart. It came into my area of sphere of influence, getting in conversations to hear about this. How did you come in to the mirror? How did you come into this group? Or tell me a little bit about that process for you of,
Well, I have this really great buddy. She lives up in Washington D.C., and she is one of these people who just finds all the greatest things. She listens to the greatest people, and she listens and follows things that are not traditional. She'll just introduce me to so
yeah.
many different people and so many different things, and it's not what you would traditionally hear, on a Sunday morning. And so she's also on my Facebook page. And I think this is how it happened, that she had posted something by Francois Dutoit.
Okay.
And I read that, and whatever it was, it just really shook me.
Mhm.
And I had to find out more. So it was right after that, it might have been a week or two, I found out about the Bible study. And right away, I felt like, yeah, I got to join this Bible study.
Oh, I
So
love
I'm pretty sure that's how it was. And then when she and I talked, she said, yeah, I have like the original mirror translation, but it's locked up in, she's got a storage unit and it's locked up in her storage unit. So I sent her one,
it.
I think it was last year's edition. Yeah, that was the first one I bought, and or year before, whenever. And since then, I've sent it to a few other people, and I love doing that. I don't really say much about it. I just send it. And then I tell them, I sent this to you, and, wait to hear their response. One, I got, not a great response, but others, I've gotten a good response. So I'm just going to keep sending it. And I just feel like eventually somebody's going to pick it up and read it, and it's just going to change their world.
Yes. Well, and the spirit guides us to who. you know.
Mhm.
I mean, I did the same thing. I had bought 10 copies once when we were doing a home group in our church, in our home, using the mirror. And, people were open to it in our like neighborhood. This was during COVID. And a lot of younger families and people, and they all wanted a copy, and people, a lot of them are on the mirror group, but not necessarily, most of them have never even been on the Bible study, but use it. One in particular uses it all the time. uh but I kept a few extra copies as well, just to have. And I really wait. I think sometimes I'm always asking, like, Holy Spirit, who's this for? Oh, I think I know who it's for, but then I'll kind of get a no, like, like, no, not right now, or whatever. But I had one come up just, well, it's been a couple months ago, a friend who, I did a little video on this after leaving her daughter's funeral. Her daughter had taken her life, an adult daughter. But this is someone who was in a small group with me, and I've worked with a lot in a nonprofit that I started. She did a lot of volunteering, creating a mosaic hearts and stuff for us. Anyway, if you can, for those that have lost a child to suicide, I can't imagine the loss and the pain. And they're the type of family who, they have everything they could ever want, need, like, um, and just kind of like, what do I do? How do I do? I waited a while, and then when we got together, I felt Holy Spirit like the week before to tell me who it was for her, and I was like, it was just like there was just something in me was like, oh, I don't think so. Like, I don't. Just her personality, but he made it so clear to me that this was for her,
All right.
and I gave it, and I just said, you'll know when it's time to open it. You'll know
Mhm.
needs, but this is for you, and she was just in tears, just because, more than anything, I think because it was the Spirit said it was for her.
Mhm. Mhm.
We'll have a conversation if and when that's supposed to come up, but I love that too, because it's like, to me, it is like you're giving people life.
Right.
You're literally handing them the truth their heart longs to hear.
Mhm.
I highly recommend that for people to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's been so good. So what do you, like, how do you see yourself, like, going forward with, all the things you were saying earlier, like this life, this journey of discovery that you're on, Patricia? Like, where are you at right now? I know that you work and you've got some dreams and things that you feel like God's been kind of leading you, but like, what has you excited for 2025?
Um, I think more of what I'm doing. I love to just be spontaneous, just to be out and about and then just start talking to people. My husband thinks I talk a lot, but I don't think so. And
Oh, come on.
and I love to just be out and see people and just start shedding some light. I love to just do that. And when we were in Puerto Rico, something else happened. We're walking down Old Town in the street, and I didn't notice a man. I don't think I noticed him. He was sitting on the ground, looking like maybe he was homeless. And I didn't notice him. But what I did notice is two boys, they must have been teenagers, stopped to pray for him, right? That's when I noticed him. So I may have walked right by and not seen him. And they started to pray for him, and they spoke Spanish and were having a difficult time trying to speak English. Little did I know, the homeless man, or who appeared to be homeless, he was American and spoke English, and I don't think he spoke Spanish. So I just kind of joined them in the prayer, and it was just a spontaneous moment. And I blessed them with some finances, and then that was the end of it. And but it makes a big impact, and you don't know what it does. And I think I used to think, well, what effect is this going to have? How is it going to help? I just started thinking too much.
Mm.
So now I don't think as much, and that could be good, that could be not so good, but I don't think as much. I'll just act. And what I've come to believe is that God will work it all out. He works
Mhm.
it all out. Even if sometimes I'll hear him speaking, sometimes I don't hear him speaking, sometimes I'll ask. and I don't get an answer, and then I'll just move out. And then if he doesn't want me to do it, or if he um, wants to speak to me later about something, he will. I've just got this comfort in knowing that I'm not going to do anything wrong because I'm trusting God the whole way. And I don't want to pass up any opportunities. So I see that happening more for me, being more spontaneous, speaking more to people, um, and then maybe making a few changes as far as, I want to say career, but it's not really career, as far as work goes. And I think that's pretty much how I see myself. I'm not sharing a lot about where I think I'm going, but yeah, I see myself becoming more spontaneous and more free and more comfortable in this space that I'm in with the Father.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's more really what I mean. It's just like, where are you heading for 25 in that? Because I know we have talked about that. And I think many people have been like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing or whatever? And maybe do we get some of that permission to not have to know
Yeah.
what we're doing, but it's how we're flowing with him. Like you were just
Mhm.
um, what
It's like when you have a good relationship with your earthly parents and you trust them, and you don't always know what you're going to do or when you're going to do it. You don't know how the food gets on the table and how, you turn on the light switch and it works. You just trust that your parents take care of it and you're not worried about it. So I think that's kind of how I feel. I know that my father, now I don't feel this way 100% of the time, but most of the time, and more so now than ever in the past, I know that he will do it all. He'll take care of everything. And he's always going to lead me in the right direction. And, and in the past, it was always, well, did you hear from the Lord? Did you
yeah.
hear from the Lord? And I had to honestly say, well, no, but I just did it anyway. And he always works it out. So it's not always having to know, and it's not always having to just wait. And because sometimes waiting is doing nothing, and then sometimes waiting is really just sitting in God's presence and, just even meditating more on him and in him. And but other times it's like just waiting and there's no productivity. And sometimes I think productivity is not what we often think it to be. It's not always doing, 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 but sometimes it's just being aware and being free and enjoying the moment.
Well, yeah, and it's like waiting, as Francois so eloquently explains, kava or kawa, kawa, kava, that waiting is the intertwining of, I will call it, a chord of four, really,
Yeah.
the Trinity in us, in that, where am I intertwining as I'm waiting? So there might be movement, there might be action, it may be continuing on the path, the job, the place that you're living, the circumstances that you find yourself in, continuing as you're waiting. Are we intertwining into
Mm-hmm.
in that place of rest, abiding,
Mm-hmm.
as we trust that he'll place our steps accordingly, that align with our heart, that whatever's in our heart was placed there by him.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe part of it's the discovering of what's actually even in the heart, clearing
Mm-hmm.
debris so much so that we can actually hear properly and know that we're getting the right frequency of his voice and not all the chatter of fear, regret, disappointment, whatever it might be.
Out. Mm-hmm.
Doubt. And so all of that, what you were just saying, takes me back to when I integrate this mirror word and experience it more in my heart as the truth. not just words on a page, but it becomes my reality. Like this is for me as much as it's for Patricia. It's and every single person from that foundation of love, we get to rest.
Mm-hmm.
And it does shift all of
Mm-hmm.
these things. It's what our world desperately needs.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
I agree.
so good. Patricia, this has been so fun to just get on here and talk, get to know you a little more, hear your heart, that people get to see what I've seen and experienced. It's just a peace and a presence and uh, of life, where it's been, where it's going, how it is right here, right now. Is beautiful, and people need it. You're special. You're a really special person.
Well, thanks again, for wanting to do this with me. I have a voice too, and that's one of the things I've come to realize, that I have a voice, and it's one that needs to be heard. And, I don't say that with pride. I say it with all humility, you
Yeah.
know. Hmm.
All of us. That's same with me. Just
Right.
getting out here and doing this is like, wait a minute, I do have things to say. And I sure just doing it from love, but we can't go wrong,
Hmm.
you know? Thank you for hopping on today, my dear. And yeah, these are just wonderful opportunities. And, as the spirit leads, I just get to talk to people and see if they want to record. So thank you for hopping on, y'all. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for another. We'll see you soon.